Exposed. How a heartwarming encounter with a homeless girl changed a millionaire's life for Ethan Parker never imagined how his day could alter in the blink of an eye. It was one of those dreary Chicago afternoons where raindrops raced down the glass like tears. As the self-made millionaire hustled down the bustling streets toward his high-rise office, wrapped in his meticulously tailored suit, he felt the weight of his success. But beneath that polished exterior lay an unsettling emptiness, haunting him like a ghost. His thoughts were consumed by profits and numbers, but then a small figure caught his eye. A little girl not older than 10, huddled against the storefront of a closed cafe, clutching a tattered book as if it were a lifeline. Her name was Lily, and the innocence in her wide eyes stood in sharp contrast to the business suits and briefcases rushing past. It was a heartbreaking scene that tugged at Ethan's heartstrings, turning his hurried pace into a hesitant stop. "Are you okay?" he found himself asking, his voice softer than he intended. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her eyes said otherwise. Lily looked up at him, vulnerable yet resilient, and told him about her younger brother, that they were navigating the unforgiving streets alone. In that moment something inside Ethan shifted. The empire he had built felt so insignificant compared to the weight of her reality, but his resolve to help was met with skepticism. "You're gonna help her? Why?" a friend later laughed, the sound harsh against Ethan's ear. Social circles filled with fellow millionaires eyed his newfound mission with ridicule, making him question his intentions. Was he a savior or merely a man trying to wash away his guilt with charity? With each attempt to support Lily, the small kindnesses meant to improve her life, came ridicule and backlash. Many turned against him. Lily's struggle mirrored the economic divide he had always chosen to ignore. His once supportive community now questioned his motives, leaving Ethan grappling with doubts and the weight of their scorn. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as he thought he might give in to defeat, a news story broke. A crackdown on homelessness that painted people like Lily as the city's burden. As he watched her small shoulders drop in despair upon hearing the news, Ethan's heart clenched. These injustices echoed his privilege and forced him to confront the question lurking at the back of his mind. What did it truly mean to be wealthy? He envisioned a community rallying behind Lily, a movement to uplift the marginalized rather than cast them aside. But with the spotlight on him, Ethan faced an agonizing decision. Would he risk everything he had built? As the shadows of his old life faded, the weight of the world bore down on him. With family ties still frayed and the city watching him unravel, Ethan's journey had only just begun. Would he rise to become the advocate Lily desperately needed? Or would he drown in the very divides he sought to bridge? Ethan sat alone at his large desk, the polished surface reflecting the cityscape outside his window. The skyscrapers loomed like giants, but they felt distant now, as if he was just another face in a bustling crowd. He couldn't shake the image of Lily from his mind. The way her eyes dimmed at the news, the tremor in her voice when she spoke of her brother, it haunted him. No amount of money or prestige could fill the void left by that kind of helplessness. That he picked up his phone. Scrolling through social media, he saw countless headlines, each more discouraging than the last. Cities tightening budgets, shelters closing, the public turning against those struggling to survive. But one post caught his eye, an invitation to a community meeting regarding homelessness. It felt like a glimmer of hope in the chaos. He hesitated, anxiety knotting in his stomach. What if they rejected him? What if his involvement was seen as self-serving? Taking a deep breath, he made his decision. This wasn't about him, it was about the people like Lily. He would go to the meeting. The atmosphere was electric, filled with passionate voices demanding change. Ethan sat in the back, listening as community leaders shared alarming statistics. A woman stood at the podium, her voice trembling yet powerful. "We need more people to join this fight. The lives of our children depend on it." The crowd erupted in applause, but Ethan felt more and more exposed. Would he be able to contribute anything meaningful? When it was his turn to speak, the room fell silent. Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "I am not a speaker," he began, his voice shaky. "But I want to help. It's easy to ignore people like Lily when you have money. It's easy to turn a blind eye." He felt their stares, questioning yet curious. For a brief moment, he thought about retreating but instead pressed on. "I don't just want to write checks. I want to change the system. I want to create a movement to support these kids and families. But I can't do it alone." The aftershock of his words rippled through the room. A murmur spread among the crowd before an older man spoke up. "Why should we trust a millionaire? What do you know about our struggles?" That one question echoed, slicing through the air like a knife. It was what he feared most, but it also ignited a fire within him. Ethan met the man's gaze head-on. "You're right. I don't have the answers," he admitted, vulnerability pouring out. "But that's why I'm here. I need you to share your stories with me. Let me learn from you, understand what real help looks like." The silence lingered, thick with uncertainty. Then a woman stood up, her voice steady but calm. "We need your resources, not just your words. We need you to be part of our community." Her eyes held a challenge. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her gaze. He was committed to the fight, but how could he forge these new connections without losing himself in the process? They were asking him to step beyond the comfort of his old life, and with it came a terrifying sense of potential. As the meeting ended, a small group gathered around him. They began exchanging ideas and contact information, and Ethan felt an unexpected warmth spreading in his chest. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he thought, but as he walked outside, the chill of the evening air hit him again. He had opened a door, but how far could he really go? Would his efforts be enough to support Lily and others like her? A knot of doubt twisted in his stomach, even as the beginnings of hope flickered within. For the first time, Ethan felt like he was on the brink of something immense, something that could change everything. And just as he began to believe in the possibility of making a difference, his phone buzzed with a text that could shatter this fragile hope. "Ethan, you need to come home. Mama's not doing well." His heart dropped. The ties he thought were frayed now felt like chains pulling him back. As he stood holding his phone, he faced a new crisis. Would he prioritize his family again, or would he forge ahead to fight for those he had just begun to understand? Ethan stood in the cold, the weight of the text pressing down on him like lead. His mother had always been a strong woman, her robust laughter echoing in hallways filled with memories. The thought of her struggling, frail in a hospital bed, sent a shiver through his bones. He glanced back toward the community center, the voices inside a growing murmur that beckoned him closer. Yet here he was, caught in a tug-of-war between his past and the uncertain future he was starting to carve out. "What do I do?" he muttered under his breath. Barely able to think straight, he decided at that moment to retreat back into the familiarity of his old life. After all, family was everything. A shadow of guilt loomed over him as he remembered Lily's face, her brother's plight, and the urgency of the community's needs. As he drove to the hospital, memories of childhood flooded his mind. He remembered summer days spent on family picnics, laughter ringing through the air while they danced around the park. His mother was the heart of those moments, a beacon of joy he now feared he might lose. When he arrived, the hospital's stark white walls felt alien, a stark contrast to the cozy embrace of his mother's home. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the air smelled sterile, like antiseptic cleaning solutions. Finding his way to her room, Ethan's heart raced. He knocked softly, but no one answered. Pushing the door open, he found her lying in bed, frail and small beneath the stark white sheets. Her hair, once a fiery red, now dulled to gray, framed her sunken face. "Mom," he said softly, stepping inside. She turned her head slowly, her eyes widening in surprise. A weak smile crept onto her lips. "Ethan, darling, you're here," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. He rushed to her side, the years of comfort erased by this moment of fear and concern. "I got your message. What's going on?" The words tumbled out, laced with worry. "It's just a cold, really," she replied with a wave of her hand. Yet he could see the weariness etched in every line of her face. "They want to keep me for a few days, monitor my heart." Days. The timeline loomed heavy, a stark deadline that silenced the chaos of earlier. The community meeting, Lily's plight, It all faded momentarily as he focused solely on her. "Why didn't you call me sooner?" he asked, guilt gnawing at him. "I didn't want you to worry," she said, reaching out to touch his hand. "You've been busy with your new purpose." Ethan felt the weight of her words. Did she know about his shift? Did she realize the battle within him? His thoughts drifted back to the meeting, the people who truly needed him hovering in the periphery of his mind. "Mom," he began hesitantly, "I want to help them, the homeless kids. They need someone to listen, to fight for them." She squeezed his hand, her grip strong despite her frailty. "And you can, sweetheart. But first you need to take care of yourself. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup." Her words struck him like a lightning bolt. He felt the tension unravel, the tug of war inside him subsiding. He could help both his family and this new pursuit, but he'd have to accept that it wouldn't be easy. As the evening shadows danced on the walls outside her room, Ethan realized he was anchored now, connected to two worlds: the love of his family and the calling of the community. An hour passed, filled with familial chatter, until the door swung open, revealing a doctor with a somber expression. "Mr. Reynolds, there are some things we need to discuss." The doctor's words hit Ethan hard. Another decision loomed before him, one that could change everything. Would he retreat into his comforts again, or face the reality of his choices? His heart raced, caught between love, obligation, and a desire for deeper change. Ethan held his breath as the doctor stepped into the room, the weight of uncertainty thickening the air between them. He quickly scanned the doctor's face, searching for any sign of solace or reassurance. Instead, he saw a man who appeared to be carrying an invisible burden of his own. "Your mother's condition is stable, but we've observed some irregularities in her heart function," the doctor said, his voice steady but serious. "We recommend further tests to pinpoint the issue." Ethan felt the ground beneath him shift as if the walls were closing in. "What does that mean? How serious are we talking?" The doctor hesitated just a moment too long for Ethan's comfort, and his gut twisted anxiously. "It's not uncommon for something like this to be monitored closely, but we need to rule out more serious complications." The news crashed over him, heavy yet somehow familiar. He remembered sitting in a hospital with his mother years ago, waiting for test results. Her soft voice had soothed him then. Now he could only manage a tight-lipped nod. "Can we discuss the treatments?" he managed, purpose echoing in the back of his mind. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the space between them was filled with an unspoken understanding of fear and vulnerability. "Of course," the doctor replied, flipping through his notes. The conversation that followed felt like it lingered in slow motion, every word sinking deeper into Ethan's heart. Each option was a stepping stone into a murky unknown, each choice wrapped in layers of implications he didn't want to face. Once the doctor left, Ethan slumped heavily into the chair beside his mother's bed, his mind racing with a whirlwind of thoughts. Here was his mother, the steadfast anchor in his life, fragile now as the world spun chaotically around them. "Ethan?" Her voice broke through the haze. He looked up to see her watching him, concern etched across her pale features. "You look troubled." "I'm just trying to process everything," he confessed, guilt and love intertwining within him. "I feel like I should be doing more, not just waiting." She chuckled softly, though it turned into a cough that echoed in the sterile room. "You always did want to save the world, even if it feels like it's crumbling beneath your feet. Just remember to take it one step at a time. You can still do good while being here with me." Her words resonated deeply. For the first time that day, Ethan felt a flicker of clarity amid the chaos. Maybe he didn't have to choose one path over another, maybe he could balance both. Helping his mother meant being present, and that was something he could control. He looked out the window where shadows formed in the fading light of day. It would be dark soon, but there was always hope for dawn. "Okay, Mom. I'm here and I'll be here. But I also need to help those kids at the center." "Then go," she urged gently. "You can be their voice and I'll be just a heartbeat away." The determination inside him swelled, embracing the possibilities. For the first time he could see a way forward, a way that kept him anchored to home while reaching out to others. As he turned to his mother, a commotion echoed from the hallway outside. It grew louder and took on a certain urgency, a chaotic ripple that filled the air. He felt drawn to it, his heartbeat quickening in time with the noise, somehow knowing that whatever lay beyond those hospital doors, It could lead him toward someone in need that he stood, a mixture of apprehension and hope filling him. "I'll be right back," he promised before stepping out, curiosity pulling him into the fray. The sight that greeted him was unexpected: a group of nurses surrounding a young girl, no older than 10, with dirt-streaked cheeks and wide, terrified eyes. "Please," the girl cried, trembling. "I can't find her." Ethan froze. Who was she looking for? What had happened? His heart raced with a mixture of dread and resolve, knowing in that moment that some choices weren't about picking sides, but about being brave enough to stand for someone who needed him. "Hey," he called gently, moving toward her. "What's going on? Who can't you find?" The girl looked up, her eyes shimmering with desperation. And as she spoke, Ethan felt the gravity of a new purpose beginning to pull him in. "It's my sister," the girl cried, her voice shaking. "She got lost. She was right here and now she's gone." Ethan's heart ached at the desperation in her eyes. He crouched down to her level and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "What does she look like? How old is she?" The girl blinked rapidly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "She's 8. She's small and has curly hair. She was wearing a pink jacket." Ethan nodded, absorbing every detail. He imagined the little girl, probably scared and alone. "Okay, we're going to find her. Can you tell me your name?" "Ella," she whispered, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "All right, Ella. I'm Ethan. Let us work together." He stood and began directing nurses nearby, trying to keep a calm demeanor. "Can we get some help here? A little girl is missing. Her sister is really upset. We need to start searching immediately." The nurses sprang into action, their voices rising in urgency as they made calls over the intercom. Ethan felt a pounding in his chest, a mix of fear and responsibility. With a child's life at stake, he was determined to do everything he could. "Stay close to me, okay?" he said to Ella, who was still trembling with worry. "Okay," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan led her to the main waiting area while the nurses fanned out, calling for anyone who might have seen the girl in the pink jacket. As minutes ticked by, each second felt like an eternity for Ella. She fidgeted beside him, biting her fingernail. Ethan could feel the tension growing both in him and in the room. He glanced at Ella, her small frame seemingly shrinking under the weight of fear. The sight pierced his heart. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling next to her. "Remember, we're doing everything we can." He tried to summon a reassuring smile, remembering his mother's strength and uncertainty. "I know it's scary, but you're not alone. We'll find her. Promise." Ella's big round eyes met his. "What if she's hurt?" The words trembled from her lips. "We're going to find her and make sure she's okay," Ethan assured her. The steadfastness of his own words surprised him, but he clung to that inner strength. Then, just as Ethan began to worry despair would take hold, a nurse rushed back into the waiting area. "We found her." Ethan felt a rush of relief wash over him, his body perceiving the change in energy. Ella gasped and her eyes lit up, the fear melting away as hope took its place. "Where?" she asked, practically bouncing on her toes. "In the playroom. She was just playing with some toys. She didn't wander far," the nurse explained. Ella wasted no time, breaking into a sprint towards the playroom, Ethan close behind. As they reached the room, Ella's sister looked up, confusion morphing into joy as the two girls connected again, embracing tightly. Ethan felt a swell of emotion watching their reunion. It was a simple reminder of the connections that mattered most, the bonds that tied people together even through chaos. "Thank you. Thank you," Ella exclaimed, looking back at him with shining eyes filled with gratitude. Ethan chuckled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "You did it too, Ella. You showed courage." As the joyful commotion filled the air, he realized this moment held more meaning than he initially understood. It wasn't just about one lost child being found. It was a reminder that in times of darkness, connections, whether bonds of family or community, brought hope and courage to light. But even amidst the celebration, an unfamiliar thought flickered in Ethan's mind about his own mother and her ongoing battle. As he stepped away, the weight of his dual responsibilities pressed on him once more. How could he continue to be the anchor for his mother while also reaching out to these kids in need? He had to find a balance, a way to embrace hope both at home and in the community. Before he could dwell on it further, he noticed Ella standing beside him, staring up with a serious expression. Do you think we can rescue someone else next time? Ethan paused, considering her words. Would he always be ready to answer the call? With newfound determination, he nodded. Absolutely, we will. The bond forged in those few moments would stay with him, propelling him into action in ways he had yet to imagine. As he turned to leave, the questions of what came next hung in the air. How could he blend his missions into a single purpose that worked for everyone? The answers waited just beyond his reach, but they were coming and Ethan was ready. Ethan took a deep breath as he stepped out into the bustling corridor of the hospital. Relief washed over him like a gentle wave, but lingering shadows clung to his heart. Ella's determination to rescue someone else stirred something inside him, igniting a flicker of hope, a desire to make a difference. But how could he, just one person, create change? Lost in thought, he gradually became aware of the world around him again. Nurses hurried past, families whispered softly to each other, and the sound of beeping machines underscored the urgency of the environment. He felt a tug on his sleeve. Ethan turned to see Ella again. Do you really mean it? She asked, her voice brimming with sincerity. Will we save someone else? He knelt down again, meeting her gaze. I promise you, if the opportunity arises, I'll be there. But the words felt heavy. He still had so many questions about his own life. Ella's smile widened, but just then, Ethan noticed something else just outside the hospital entrance. A young girl sat cross-legged on the cold pavement. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, her dirty face framed by tangled hair. A threadbare blanket was wrapped tightly around her small body, and she clutched it as though it were her only possession. Ethan. Ella's voice broke through his thoughts. Look. Yeah, I see her, he replied. His heart sank. The stark contrast between the warmth and safety of the hospital and the girl's plight struck him. Do you think she's lost too? Ella pondered, her innocence piercing through the heaviness of the moment. Ethan rose, instinctively taking a step toward the door. Let us go see if she needs help. He felt a pull deep in his gut, an awareness that this was more than just coincidence. This was a call to action, a chance to be that anchor not just for his family but for the community. As they approached, the girl's wide, fearful eyes darted away, but Ethan softened his voice. Hey there, I'm Ethan. What's your name? I'm Lily, she murmured, her voice trembling. It's okay, Lily. We're here to help. Are you hungry? Ella's offer was earnest, as though she had found a shared understanding born from her own experiences. Lily looked down, shifting uncomfortably. Not really, she whispered, but Ethan noted how her stomach growled, echoing the hunger lurking beneath the surface. Ella, undeterred, reached into her pocket and pulled out a pack of crackers. Here. I saved some for later, but you can have them. Watching the scene unfold, Ethan felt warmth spread through him again. Ella's compassion, pure and instinctive, reminded him of the hope and courage they had just celebrated moments before. But beneath that warmth lingered a bigger question. How did a child so young end up out here alone? What had led her here, to this moment of exposure? Lily hesitated, glancing at the food, then back at the two of them. Slowly, she accepted Ella's offering, nibbling cautiously at the crackers as if she didn't know when her next meal would come. Ethan's heart ached watching this little girl eat in such a vulnerable state. Would you like to come inside? It's warm and safe there, he suggested, hoping to break down the walls of hesitation. Lily's gaze darted from him to Ella and back again. Uncertainty etched on her tiny features. The silence stretched, and Ethan could feel the weight of the world pressing down on all three of them. What if she doesn't want to? Ella's nervous question broke through his thoughts again. He looked at Lily and saw more than just fear. He saw survival, an inner strength shining brightly. That's okay, Lily. You don't have to go if you don't want to. We just want to help. No pressure. Lily's eyes flickered between uncertainty and need. Can I eat the rest of it out here? Of course, Ethan said, but how about we sit together while you do? You're not alone anymore. As they settled on the pavement together, Ethan felt a shift take place inside him. It wasn't just about one child or two. The fragility of community lay before him, and the hunger for connection, safety, and love echoed through their gathering. The moment hung in the air, raw and honest. Ethan knew this wouldn't be the end of his journey. It was merely the beginning. He made a silent promise to himself. He would listen and, more importantly, He would see as they shared that simple meal. The flicker of hope inside Ethan grew brighter. But the question remained, how could he transform this fleeting moment of kindness into something more? The answers were still out there, waiting for him to find them, and he was ready. Lily finished the last crumb and looked up at Ethan, her eyes wide and shimmering. The fleeting comfort of the moment hung between them, but her small body was frail and tentative, and he sensed that the warmth was merely a thin veil over something deeper beneath the surface. "Are you okay, Lily?" he asked gently, tilting his head slightly to catch her gaze. She shrugged, still holding the blanket tightly around her. "No one will believe me. I'm not supposed to be here." The words escaped her lips like fragile whispers, and Ethan felt a pang of concern. "Where do you usually stay?" Ella prompted, her small fingers anxiously twisting a loose thread on her sweater. "In the shelter," Lily replied, her voice almost a sigh. "But it's full. They said I wasn't allowed to stay tonight, said I should go find my mom." Ethan's heart sank. A shelter full? Leaving a child alone on the street? It didn't sit right with him. "What about your mom? When did you last see her?" Lily bit her lower lip. "She said she'd come back. She said there was a job," she said. But the hope in her statement felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. Before he could respond, Ella wrapped an arm around Lily's thin shoulders. "You don't have to wait out here. You can stay with us until we figure it out. Right, Ethan?" He nodded, unsure how this would all unfold, but knowing that turning back wasn't an option. "Absolutely. You can come with us for a bit. We'll find someone who can help." For a moment, there was a spark of light that flickered in Lily's eyes, hope dancing amidst uncertainty. But then it dimmed and she shook her head. "I shouldn't. It's my fault if my mom can't find me." Ethan felt frustrated at the world that had put so much on her small frame. He knelt again, trying to make himself less imposing. "Lily, this isn't your fault. You deserve to be safe. That's the only thing that matters right now." Ella leaned in closer, her brow furrowing with concern. "What if we help you find your mom? If she's in trouble, we can call the police or someone. You don't have to do this alone." The flicker of hope returned momentarily, but Lily's face fell again. "But what if they don't believe me?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Let us make sure they do." The urgency in his voice surprised even him. "We'll make a plan. Together we can figure this out." Slowly Lily nodded, though the shadow still lurked in her expression. They stayed on the pavement, a makeshift family formed from vulnerability and kindness, as the world swirled around them. Ethan let the moment sink in, binding them to the present. Life as he had known it felt worlds away, the business meetings, the wealth, the power. None of it seemed to matter here. Each heartbeat echoed the promise to himself, a promise to change not just the story of one girl but maybe something bigger. Their little trio stirred attention. A passing nurse paused, her kind expression capturing the scene. "They should really be inside," she murmured, glancing down at Ethan and Ella. Ethan felt the spark ignite the strength inside him again. "Do you think you could help us?" he asked the nurse, his words pouring out like a dam releasing water. The nurse nodded, concern flooding her features as she crouched beside them. "Of course. I'll get someone from social services to take a look. You did well to bring her in." As she turned, Ethan felt a rush of gratitude. But with it came an awareness that this wasn't just about social services or the hospital. It was about the community, the flow of humanity that wrapped around those in need. As Lily leaned against Ella, her tension easing, Ethan realized he couldn't stop here. This wasn't just a brief encounter in a moment of kindness. He had to understand how this happened, how a system could let a child slip through the cracks, lost and vulnerable. He glanced over at Ella, who was now whispering softly to Lily, her fingers gently stroking the girl's tangled hair. "You're going to be okay," Ella said with comforting sincerity. But as the nurse walked away and the warmth of the moment swelled, a deeper truth loomed. How many others, like Lily, were out there lost, forgotten? This was a thread that could unravel, revealing the fabric of the community he had once brushed past without thinking twice. What lay ahead was uncertain, but he felt a call to action stronger than any business deal he'd ever closed. He wasn't just going to help one child tonight. He was about to set out on a mission that could change everything. But how big would it grow? He didn't know yet, but he couldn't turn back now. The battle was just beginning, and he could feel the weight of something monumental settling in his bones. Ethan pondered the journey ahead. A thought lingered: could he really be the change that others needed? What would it take to unlock that potential and create a movement? Ethan watched the nurse disappear into the hospital, lost in his thoughts about a child who shouldn't be alone in the world. His heart ached for Lily. She sat there, small and fragile, a candle flickering in a dark night. "Do you want a hot chocolate?" Ella asked, breaking the silence. The question hung in the air like a lifeline thrown into uncertain waters. Lily's eyes brightened for a fleeting moment. "Can I?" "Of course. We can even add marshmallows," Ella replied, beaming. But then the flicker of hope dimmed again. "But it costs money, right?" Ethan felt guilt wash over him. "Let us not worry about that. I can cover it," he said, reaching for his wallet. "It's just a warm drink. It'll make us all feel better, right?" Lily hesitated, glancing at Ella, who smiled encouragingly. Finally she nodded, her small voice barely above a whisper. "'Kay, hot chocolate would be nice." Ethan couldn't help but feel relieved. It was a small gesture, but he hoped it brought a sliver of comfort to her troubled heart. He stood and held out a hand. "Come on then. Let us find the cafeteria together." Ella took Lily's other hand, offering her support as they made their way inside. Ethan couldn't help but observe the duo. Ella was radiant. Her warmth pushed back the shadows, cradling Lily with a kindness he wished everyone could see. She was a beacon of hope, and maybe, just maybe, it was contagious. Once they reached the cafeteria, Ethan ordered the drinks. As he waited for their hot chocolates, he glanced at the bright lights overhead. The more he thought about Lily's situation, the more fire ignited within him. Why had the shelter turned her away? What about her mother? Questions flooded his mind with an urgency he couldn't shake. He felt like he was on the brink of something important, something that could grow into change. He just didn't know how. As the server placed the steaming cups in front of him, he beckoned to Ella and Lily. They gathered around the table, the aroma of chocolate curling around them like a warm hug. Lily's face lit up as she took the first sip. "This is really good." Ethan smiled at her enjoyment. "It's nothing but the best. You're worth it, Lily." Yet as they drank, laughter and chatter bubbled around them, the warmth of the room seeming to mock the chill outside. Tension knotted in Ethan's stomach as he looked around, realizing that behind the bright smiles lay stories he would never hear. He felt a pang of guilt again. His world had been so far removed from this. No more. He couldn't ignore it. He didn't want to. "When we leave here," he said slowly, "we need to talk to someone. Someone who can really help Lily. Maybe even check that shelter again." Ella looked up at him, her eyes filled with determination. "That's a good idea. We can make sure that no one else has to go through what Lily is." Lily gazed at them both, her heart wavering between hope and fear, as if sensing both a simple truth and the complexity of the world outside. "You think they'll listen?" Ethan nodded firmly. "They have to listen. We won't let them turn you away again. You matter too much." The conversation shifted then, the weight of worry tangled up with the possibility of change. Their trio felt strong, bound together by a cause bigger than them, a shared mission, an urgency to make things right. As they finished their drinks, Elijah's phone buzzed. It was a message from a friend in the charity circuit he hadn't spoken to in years. He stared at the screen, a chill running down his spine. The message brought news of a rally for homeless families happening downtown next week. "Are you guys ready?" Ethan asked, a plan beginning to take shape. "What if we get involved? What if something good could come from this?" Little did they know, this spark of action would soon bring unexpected challenges their way. As he watched Lily's face light up with the tiniest hint of belief, he realized that this was just the beginning. How deep did this rabbit hole go? What would they uncover in their quest for change? The questions lingered, beckoning them forward into unknown treacheries and triumphs. Ethan stood at the bustling cafe table, a cup of warm chocolate cradled in his hands as he contemplated the rally. It felt like destiny nudging him, whispering that change was possible, that they could be part of something greater. A fire ignited in his chest, but a flicker of anxiety raced through him too. Would they really be able to make a difference? Lily seemed lost for a moment, her big eyes reflecting uncertainty. Ethan leaned forward, capturing her attention. "Lily, look. You have us now. We won't stop fighting for you." Ella nodded in agreement, her voice warm as honey. It's not just about the rally. It's about you finding a safe place to live, to truly belong. What if her voice faltered? What if they hit a wall? Ethan could feel the weight of those thoughts pressing on him like lead. But he pushed them aside. Focusing on Lily, he said, "You're more than just a case to us. You're part of our team." Lily's expression transformed slowly. She mustered a smile, as if she was finding a glimmer of hope in their words. "I want to help too if I can." "Absolutely." Ella cheered, her enthusiasm contagious. "We can spend the day together. Plan what we want to say at the rally." The idea of bringing a child to the forefront of this movement sent shivers down Ethan's spine. Could he really let her step into the spotlight? Yet the more he looked at her hopeful face, the more he realized it wasn't just about how to protect Lily. It was about empowering her. As the trio stepped out of the cafeteria, an unusually bright sun illuminated the sidewalk. They shielded their eyes for a brief second before Ella tugged Lily along. The air tinted with a slight chill, but the warmth of connection wrapped around Ethan like a familiar blanket. "What do you want to say?" Ethan asked as they walked towards the hospital exit. Lily hesitated, but then her confidence grew. "I want to tell them it's not fair, not the way people treat us." "Yes, speak from your heart," Ella encouraged as they rounded the corner. Ethan felt something shift inside him. Learning from Lily's raw honesty, he needed to harness that energy to make sure it translated into their mission. "Exactly. We should write a speech together. Everyone deserves a voice." But as they ventured towards the hospital entrance, a woman hurried past them, her eyes averted. She grasped a small boy's hand tightly as they walked away, chin quivering. That sight shot daggers of pain through Ethan's heart. "Hey," he said softly, pointing out the family walking away. "Every person we see has a story. It's our job to learn them." Lily watched the family go, brows knitted together in thought. "Do you think they need help too?" "Definitely," Ethan replied, emotions swirling within him like a storm. "And we can be part of trying to help everyone." Suddenly, a loud wail echoed through the hospital entrance, pulling their attention. It was a desperate cry laced with grief, seeping into the warmth they had cultivated moments ago. The sound rattled through Ethan, fracturing that brief feeling of hope. "What is happening?" Lily asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan's heart sank. He glanced over at Ella, and they shared a look filled with understanding. They couldn't ignore this either. They had to know what was going on to see if they could lend an ear or, at the very least, a hand. As they walked towards the noise, a mingling of hope and dread intertwined, an invisible thread pulling them in. What awaited them on the other side could change everything. Would they find strength in each other? Or would this moment reveal heartbreaking truths too heavy to bear? The closer they got, the more questions bubbled up in Ethan's mind, igniting a sense of urgency that wouldn't be quenched easily. Ethan took a deep breath as they neared the source of the wails. The hospital's sterile environment suddenly felt suffocating, a stark reminder of how fragile life truly was. He glanced at Lily, her small hand gripping Ella's tightly, both girls reflecting a mix of fear and determination. Whatever lay beyond this moment, he sensed it would demand more than just their courage. It would require unwavering resolve. As they turned the corner, they saw a mother sobbing, her frail body shaking as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper. A nurse stood by her side, speaking softly, but her voice was drowned out by the mother's cries. The sight hit Ethan like a wave, an overwhelming surge of grief that shook him to the core. "What happened?" he whispered, his heart pounding. Ella, sensing the weight of the moment, pulled Ethan lower so they could listen closely. "She might need help," Ella said, eyes wide with concern. "Should we say something?" Ethan hesitated, weighing the situation. "We can't just stand here. Let's approach gently. We might be able to help, even if it's just to offer comfort." He nodded at the girls, giving a reassuring smile as they took a few cautious steps forward. "Excuse me," Ethan began softly, kneeling beside the distressed woman. "I'm Ethan, and this is my friend Ella and her friend Lily. We saw you were upset, and we just want to help in any way we can." The mother looked up, her tear-streaked face a portrait of despair. "They said my son is seriously ill and I don't know how to fix this." Her voice trembled, cracking under the weight of anguish. I can't lose him." Ethan's heart sank. The enormity of her pain washed over him, I can't pretend to know what you're going through, but I'm really sorry. Do you want to talk? Or is there someone we can reach out to for you? The woman shook her head, overwhelmed, but Ella stepped in, full of empathy. You're not alone. We'll stay right here with you. Would it help to talk about what they said? The mother glanced at the little girls beside her, and something shifted in her eyes. Perhaps it was a touch of the warmth they offered, a reminder that amidst sorrow, there could also be kindness. My son, he has a rare condition. I don't have the money for the treatment, and her voice faded, the reality too daunting. Ethan exchanged glances with Ella and Lily, a silent understanding passing between them. We can help with that too, he said. It's not just your fight. We want to get involved in our community. Together, there are resources we can connect you with. It starts with us wanting to do something, and we know the right people. Lily, her voice barely a whisper, piped up, we can help find a charity or organize something for your son. You deserve support. The mother's gaze shifted at the mention of charity. Beneath her grief, a spark flickered. She seemed to see them, not just as kids, but as fellow warriors in this battle of life. You'd really do that for me? Absolutely, Ethan affirmed, determination flooding his voice as resolve anchored his spirit. If there's a way we can help make sure your son gets the care he needs, we'll do everything we can to see it through. A flicker of hope danced in the mother's eyes, chasing away shadows. Really? You'd help us? We're all in this together now, Ella replied, a radiant smile blossoming on her face. No one should fight alone. Overwhelmed, the mother nodded, tears still trailing down her cheeks, but a hint of gratitude shone within her. Thank you so much. As they stood together, connecting in an unspoken bond, Ethan felt the heaviness in his heart lift. The warmth of community was tangible. It enveloped them and transformed the air around them. Your son will get through this. I promise, he said, his voice steady. I'll make sure we find the best help. We'll stand beside you every step of the way. Moments later, with the mother reassured, something deep inside Ethan began to transform. He was more than a millionaire wrapped in his own world. He was now a catalyst for change, a voice for those drowning in despair. As they left the hospital a bit later, holding hands and grinning, Ethan knew their journey was far from over. There were still countless stories to uncover, lost voices to restore. With each step, a full heart replaced uncertainty, and for the first time, he could see the light glimmering on the horizon. Let us get to that rally, he said with renewed vigor. Let us unite our voices, not just for Lily, but for everyone who feels they don't belong. We're just beginning. Lily looked up at him, her eyes sparkling with determination. I want to help them all. Let us do this. Together, Ethan affirmed. He felt that flicker of hope expand within him, igniting something deep that promised a future rich with purpose. The rally would become their launching point, their declaration of empathy and courage. It's time to blaze this trail, he said, excitement bubbling in his chest. This is just the start, and we'll make sure no one feels lost ever again. With that, they stepped forward, united, stepping into a world waiting for change. Now is the time for you to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread these messages of hope and transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Share your thoughts. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans know this is how we build a community that cares.